that we've got. I served on the Judiciary Committee for a while when I was in the United States Senate. Nobody has to tell me a good judge from a bad one. Nobody has to tell me the difference between a conservative or a liberal. And I will never have to stand before you and say, well, I believe this way, but I promise you that I will appoint judges that disagree with me. That don't make any sense to me. Thought I heard that from a candidate the other day. I got to go back and check that. When I was out of the Senate and in private life, I've had a couple of different things that really honored me. One was when Condoleezza Rice called me up and asked me to head up an International Security Advisory Board. I've been on the Intelligence Committee. I've traveled around the world, met with leaders concerning matters of interest to our country. But the other one was when the President called me up and asked me to help Judge Roberts get appointed to the Supreme Court, to get through the Senate confirmation process. He's now Chief Justice John Roberts. And it reminded me how important it is that we have judges who obey the law and follow the Constitution and not make it up as they go along, which is what's happening more and more. Democrats win the presidency, and some say they will even gain more seats in the Senate than they've got now. And so you'll have potentially Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, and Harry Reid running the country with greater numbers. Judges will be appointed, and Supreme Court judges will be appointed that will change the complexion of this country for a generation to come. That's what's at stake. These judges are, I think, the second most important thing following national security that faces the President of the United States. And that's one of the reasons why I'm standing here before you today. I look around and see these young people. I look at home and see how I've been blessed a little later in life with a couple of young ones still at home. I think about the kind of world they're all going to grow up in. And it makes me want to come to Howard, because this is where it all begins. For the future. And with that, since I got an applause line, I'm going to quit. With that, I'm going to stop, and y'all got time. We'll
questions for the senator. Questions?
Yes, sir.
Senator, there were a couple of border patrol agents that were doing their job. They're now sitting in prison for shooting a drug dealer in the rear end. Our government let that guy come back across the border and testify against him. If you're elected president, would you consider a pardon for those gentlemen who were trying to do their job?
You can't tell on the front end of any complex factual situation what you would do as a president with regard to a pardon or a commutation. I can't make a promise to you based on what I read in the newspaper. I hope you respect that. But let me tell you my thoughts that I have as I read about those stories. The crux of the problem there was that the local prosecutor made a serious mistake on the front end when he charged these people with offenses that would automatically carry, as I recall, a 10-year minimum sentence. Now, as I recall in this system there, the jury didn't know that. The jury didn't know that when they rendered the verdict guilty. And then the judge had no alternative but to impose, in that case, a minimum sentence that far exceeded anything that seems to be reasonable in my case. Now, as I read the case, number one, these people should have been enforcing the law. We should support our people who are trying to enforce the law on the borders. These people are to be commended for that. On the other hand, I read that when they shot this guy, they tried to cover it up because they knew they weren't following the precise rules that they should have been under those circumstances. I can't condone that. So I think the question is not a pardon. The question is whether or not a president should take a look at a situation like that and and consider giving a commutation. And that is, in effect, time served. You don't wipe the slate clean, because they did do some things wrong. But the drug dealer did things much wronger than what they did. And we should not focus all of our energies on prosecuting our own law enforcement people while people are running rampant on the border. That's the way I feel about it. So I would consider, as president, in any case that was brought before me, a situation where the justice is out of line. I've made comments on this before, long before I started this campaign, on another particular case that I had more personal knowledge of, in Scooter Libby. And this is no different. I take a look at those circumstances, but I do think that a commutation would be the area that would be more appropriate for someone who has acknowledged by their actions some wrongdoing, but they got much more of a sentence than justice would require.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I remember you from Nixon days.
I'm innocent.
No, no, no. I argued with him. You thought something was right when you said so. You didn't let his job get in the way, and I appreciate that. I have another tough one for you, though.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I would have to ask a candidate for presidency if he would promise not to appoint any cabinet members who had dual citizenship. They need to have their first loyalty to this country, like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, yeah.
Will you promise that?
Well, I've never thought about it. It never occurred to me that I'd be faced with a situation like that.
Did it occur to
I
you?
can't.
I
It's
thought
kind of like same-sex marriage. They're putting new issues on me I never thought were issues. Whether marriage is between a man and a woman. I thought that was decided a few thousand years ago. But
Thank you. One more question. One more question.
I haven't answered the lady's question. Off the top of my head, I can't imagine me appointing someone with dual citizenship. I think we got plenty of people without dual citizenship in this country who are Americans and who came here, and whether they be naturalized citizens or born here or whatever, to choose from. Thank you for your comment about the Nixon days. I was 30 years old. Howard Baker asked me to come up and be counsel on the Watergate Committee. And it's amazing what you can do when you're too young to be scared to death. You don't know any better. And so we went through that for a year and a half. It was a trying time for our country. I like to think, I don't usually bring this up,